mean, listen, I love my children. I love them with all the world, okay? But my ex-wife was a nurse, okay? And when young'uns started throwing up, you know, okay, I do everything. I changed diapers, I cooked meals, I did all kinds of stuff, okay? The young'uns started throwing up. I'm like, Betsy, come here, you know, because I couldn't stand it, okay? It makes me puke for them to do it. This guy tucks that child against his shoulders, gets in a car, races to the hospital, and while he's doing it, this kid is puking on him, not on his clothes, not on the floor, not on the seat of the car, or in a baby bed somewhere. He's puking down his neck, down his shirt, inside his jacket. Okay? He doesn't let go. He doesn't let go. He doesn't stop holding him. He doesn't stop going to the hospital. He doesn't get to the hospital and say, here, somebody take this nasty young'un. Look, he's done yacked all over me. He carries him in until he puts him in the hands of somebody who might try to save his life. And we're gonna mock him and say, supposedly someone threw up on his jacket. Come on. He was credible. He was credible as to what he testified to. And ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, there is this. He has no reason to harm his son. Now, Mr. Gamble says, you know what? They should have gone to Colquitt and talked to neighbors and friends and all this kind of stuff and asked about all that. And, you know, like they should have been investigating Jay Williams. Well, first of all, they make him sit through 4 hours of interviews, you know, on the first day. Right, and they take his phone. Okay, they do a search for a search warrant. You know, they snatch his phone too, not one, two phones. They snatch 2 phones from him. Okay, and they're investigating. But when they're the dormitory interviewing people, okay, they're not interviewing people to say, tell me what you know bad about Trinity Poague. Okay, they're saying, tell me what you know about this baby being in the dorm last night. You know, and then from there, you know, it may go on to other questions. But saying, what do you know about the baby being in the dorm? Left, gone. Okay. So that's what they're asking for. They're not trying to build a case or attack the character of this girl. That's not what they're doing. Okay. And there's no reason for them to go to Colquitt because I tell you this. Okay. He's got an apartment in Colquitt, right? If this child had died in Colquitt, Georgia, on Sunday, January 14th, 2024, okay, and Trinity Poague had been there in Colquitt with him when it happened, you think they're going to be coming up here talking to people that live on the dorm? No, they're going to be talking to people in the apartment next door, in the apartment across the street. You know, the people that he sees in the parking lot, the people that he sees at work. But those people don't have relevant information in this case, okay? They might have relevant information if this child had died of malnutrition, okay? If he had died as a result of, you know, septic shock for some wound that didn't get treated, okay? If there was a negligence case or something like that where you have a baby that just doesn't get taken care of, okay, where defects has been involved, all these kinds of things, if you have that, then sure you go interview the neighbors, etc. Okay? J.D. Angeles died because something or someone smashed him in the back of his head and cracked his skull open and then smashed him again and split his liver. Okay? He didn't die because he had some sort of chronic abuse. He didn't die because he cried at night, you know, and the neighbors somewhere else didn't hear him. Okay? Nobody's aiming for Trinity Poague. Nobody's aiming for Trinity Poague. You know, hey, I'd rather have a different defendant, okay? You know, if it were me, right, if I got to choose who my defendant is, you know, I mean, I'd rather have somebody that looks mean and surly, you know, and is older, and somebody looks at him and says, oh, you know, he just looks terrible. That looks like a guy who would do this. You know, that's who I'd rather have as a defendant. Okay? Not an 18-year-old college student, or, you know, 19, 20, whatever she is. They're not after Trinity Poague. They're trying to determine how this baby died and who was responsible for it. Now,
Mr. Lamb, it's been a little over an hour, so I'm going to let the jury have a brief recess. We're just going to make it a 10-minute recess, and then we'll let Mr. Lamb conclude his argument. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Aggravated aggravated battery, not cruelty to child in the first degree. Y'all see that where I changed it. It only. I know that. That's why when we only addressed aggravated battery, that didn't sufficiently cover it. So
Okay,
I changed it. Okay, let's bring the jury back in. All right, Mr. Lamb, you can conclude your argument.
Talking about Julian Williams said that you can see by the not only his demeanor in court, but the things he did, his actions, the way he came out of the dorm, poking that child, and all that. And to my knowledge, no one had ever asked. I certainly had never asked until it came up in this trial. But then he testified to it. I said, so you were talking about your jacket, and they're talking about why we didn't collect the jacket to test for vomit. And he says, well, I guess you still could. And so that's what put him back up on the stand later, if you'll recall. And I said, so do you have the jacket? And he says, yeah, I've got it. Like, where is it? Is it at home? He says, I said, what's it? He said, I never washed it. Shirt either. They're there. I said, well, why hadn't you washed it after 2 years? And he said, because it's the only thing, that's the last thing I have left from my baby. Okay, that guy is not going to beat this young'un to death. Okay, Gamble's giving you a 5-minute window in which, I'm sorry, that hand I heard on the table saw, and it looks funny to me when I hold it up. He's not going to give you, he's giving you a 5-minute window, okay, where he says it had to happen. You know, that Jay Williams could have done it. He could have done it in this 5 minutes while she's in the shower. Never mind, they're still in the same damn dorm room, okay, but he says he could happen in this 5 minutes that she's in the shower and he's out there with the baby. Okay, there is nothing about Jay Williams that would lead you to believe or support the conclusion that he would have done this to his child. Who had a motive? If you could have a motive, right? Like these cases are hard.